welcome to the Fantasy Football Game Show presented by Front Yard Fantasy. My name is Josh. Some people call me Jeff, and I am here today as I always am. And as the Fantasy Football Game Show always is at 3 o'clock on weekdays, 3 o'clock p.m. Eastern time on weekdays. Yes. John Luca Ruffalo, how you doing, JL?
I'm doing fantastic. I just got a lesson in time from one of my best friends, so can't complain.
A lesson in time? Oh, a lesson in...
Yeah.
Wait. Oh, can you elaborate?
You just gave me a lesson, Josh. 3 p.m. Eastern time.
I got you. Okay.
Yeah.
I digress. Simon is sick. Simon's sick. He's not here today. He's not feeling very well. He's got some stomach issues. Simon, feel better, poop. Man. Yeah, he always got some poop, so that's why I said stomach issues. But we do have an excellent guest today, Matt Ward. You can find him on Twitter at PsychWardFF. You can also see it under his face right there on the screen. He is the lead writer and director of content at Broto Fantasy. He is a writer, ranker, and content manager for Dynasty Football Factory. Matt, how you feeling today?
Really good. That was a heck of an intro, man. I appreciate that.
Thank you. I told you I do a good job introducing you. I hope it lived up to your expectations, obviously.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm happy to be here. Really excited. As we were kind of like saying off air, this is a bit of new territory for me with one QB standard dynasty mocks, but I'm really excited to kind of see how I can figure out an ADP board on the fly.
Yeah. Let's see how it goes. Yeah, standard league, non-PPR. We were looking at the rankings kind of beforehand and being like, what are they thinking?
What are you doing, sleeper? Wake up.
What are these guys doing? But hopefully we can. You were kind of talking about the concept of how we can kind of use this to our advantage. If we kind of like can find the players that are buried in the ADP, we can maybe have a better team because people are overlooking certain individuals that are ranked lower.
That's why we mock.
All right, let me get this draft board up. We actually have one more spot available. So guys out there, if you're in our Discord, which you already should be if you're listening, you can jump into that mock draft with us. We do it every Monday. We love when you guys join, and we have the 6 spots still available. So whoever wants to
threw the link in the chat so you can get it there, or join our Discord. Either one.
Yeah, either one works.
So Shevin in here saying happy draft week. While you get that all set up, Josh, I'll go through some of these comments.
Beautiful. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Of course, Craig saying, good afternoon, friends. How do you plan to psych each other out during this mock draft? Well, we should probably ask the psych expert himself. Matt, how do you plan to psych out your fellow mock drafters here?
Well, one of the things, I'm not going to tilt my hand too much, but I'm a pretty notorious or infamous zero RB or hero RB drafter. But with the standard thing, there might be a little bit of a different team building strategy that I try to bring up, and definitely going to be pulling off some reaches here, at least as far as this ADP board is considered. So hopefully that kind of psychs me out with my or psych some of my opponents out with these back-to-back picks I have at 1-1.
Yeah, I think that's a good strategy. My go-to is always just send just a bunch of mashed up fruit in a box to your opponents. Send it to their house, no context at all. It's very unsettling.
It's better when you order it to your house first, let it sit a couple weeks, then send it to your friend. It gets real smelly. It has bugs already in there. Flies like invade their house.
So they open up and it's like perfect.
That's the way to do it. That's the way to do it. Hey, Matt, you said you're typically a zero RB kind of guy. Is that mainly for Dynasty, or is that both redraft and Dynasty? Like, does it matter for you, or you just kind of like that strategy either way?
Yeah, I do. I find, especially like the whole concept of it for me is kind of just being active, trying to stay like, it's not going to look like everybody's favorite team when you're finished the draft, but as long as you stay active on the wire and in trades, whether it be redraft or Dynasty, it's definitely... It's a tricky strategy, but it's one that I found a lot of success with. So yeah, I like it in Dynasty as well, that especially as like trying to stay as a constant productive competitor, not just, huge dump offs and rebuilds.
Right.
You get guys like Cordarrelle Patterson that are just hanging out on the waiver wire when and that wins you your league. And then you can stack around them superstar wide receiver talent, especially when you have like back-to-back turn picks like this in a startup.
Yeah.
I like that. I like the points you made there, Matt. For me, I love it because, when you go zero RB or something, for example, in a redraft or dynasty league, you just know what you need. You're set at wide receiver. You got your quarterback, your tight end. The rest of your team's good. It's just that running back position is all you got to worry about at that point. And then you just take your shots, right? You take your shots and eventually some of them hit. They come back and that's how you win leagues, right?
Yep.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I'm all about roster consolidation too. So that's kind of like you're like pre-setting that up. Like you're consolidating all of your talent into those 3 other positions.
Yeah, it makes sense.
I see Swamp Nola here in the chat saying, so what's the difference between non-PPR and standard? Great question, Swamp. There's actually not a difference. They are interchangeable terms, non-PPR standard. Standard is the term that I think first came out. It was standard leagues, and then PPR came out, and everyone was like, hey, PPR, this is a lot of fun. And then people really got into PPR, and now PPR is really the standard of the industry, it seems.
A misnomer.
Exactly. So now the term non-PPR, I think, is a little bit more acceptable.
Yeah, to help get through that extra little barrier of like when you're first finding out, okay, what's standard? What does that mean? So
Exactly. Well, guys, without further ado, how about I just get this draft started? It's gonna probably take a little bit to get it finished, and we do have Matt here with the very first pick. I am excited to see who he drafts. For some reason, I have a feeling I could maybe guess who it is, but let's see. You said you're a 0 RB guy. There's 3 great picks here in my opinion.
Go running back here. Throw everybody off.
And I mean that was kind of the whole psyching out part of it. I think there's a pretty obvious pick for standard leagues right here. If I can actually just scroll up my thing, I got pretty far down the.
You'll find him. You'll find him. He's there.
Yeah, I mean he is literally the second guy off the board. So there Jonathan it is.
Taylor. Yeah,
it's definitely not something that I would usually do in a startup. Take that, high-end running back with my first pick, but he's obviously in the right age frame. We have multiple years of that top 12 production on deck, or at least, projected. And yeah, Colts just got a quarterback upgrade. It might be a small one, but I definitely think that it is one. So it should open up even more scoring opportunities for Taylor. And in a standard league, that's what you want. You want touchdowns and yards.
Yep. Yeah, the touchdowns really sets Taylor apart in this format. And guys like Derrick Henry. That's a little early for me, though.
And to be honest, just running backs, I think, are set apart a little bit in standard leagues. It just, I think they're a little bit more valuable. So while in this position, I personally would go Jamar Chase or Justin Jefferson over Jonathan Taylor, and when it's PPR. This I'm with you, Matt. I'm leaning Jonathan Taylor in a standard league over Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase.
Yeah, and in standard as well, I might actually lean Chase over Jefferson. Especially if he improves whatsoever on that rookie season, then obviously those touchdowns are going to continue and should have more yards, more opportunities. I do think T. Higgins kind of creates an avenue for Burrow to be able to look elsewhere, but Chase is the guy. And yeah, again, in standard leagues, that touchdown upside is kind of really what you're looking for. You want a safe touchdown floor, which is almost a oxymoron because touchdowns are so unpredictable. But exactly. But that is kind of the game that you play there.
Yeah.
Dutchy
13 looks like we found Rich Eisen's sleeper username here. Dutchy 13 here at the 6th spot.
It is okay, because it's a picture of Rich Eisen there.
Rich Eisen, yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, Dutchy, happy to have you in here. Let's see where they go with this pick. We are seeing quite a few running backs go off the board. That's kind of what we were just talking about there. Maybe a running back is a little bit more valued. This is still a dynasty league, and we're still seeing some aging running backs getting picked. Does that surprise you at all, Matt?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially with Henry at 1-2. And Chubb, Eckler, I mean, for the listeners, not to give away a pick, but the fact that Javonte Williams hasn't gone here in a standard league is kind of crazy to me. And I do think that we've seen the 2 receivers that definitely should go top 8 off the board already. But yeah, it kind of depends on how you're trying to project your future as well. If you're really going to go all in and win now and not really worry about kind of how the team looks from a value standpoint or a trade market standpoint after it, then I could still understand how Chubb and Eckler hold a lot of value.
Yeah. I mean, if this is a redraft league, I'm all about those picks. But just like you said, Matt, it scares me in a dynasty league with those age. I'm an ageist, especially with the running back position in Dynasty. Once you hit 26, I am looking for ways to trade you any way possible. And once you hit 27, you don't see many good 27-year-old running backs in the NFL. You just don't. It just doesn't happen very often. I'm not saying it can't happen. They're just outliers.
You're not wrong.
Yeah. And I mean, yeah, they're the historical production of guys over the age of 26 finishing in the top 12 is incredibly minimal. So there's a good reason to be an ageist when it comes to running backs. It certainly makes sense. It's not necessarily a death sentence anymore like it used to be. You still see guys like Melvin Gordon producing at a high level, and obviously the way that medical advancements and just science and training has gone, guys are taking care of their bodies a little bit better. But it's also like, I'm not necessarily an ageist when it comes to running back, but I am kind of a touchist, like a mile.
Oh, yeah.
How many miles do these guys really have on them? How many touches have they sustained? Because, I mean, we saw it with Derrick Henry. There's never been a back-to-back 2,000-yard season, and you put 360 touches on your body in a single season, and it's going to have an effect, whether it's a freak injury or not. It's just it's not necessarily a product of a guy being injury-prone, but that's how many times you're putting yourself in a position to be destroyed by 300-pound monsters.
Exactly. JL, you just took Javonte Williams and CeeDee Lamb. I saw Christian McCaffrey went the pick in front of you. I know you're high on Christian McCaffrey, even Dynasty. Was he going to be your pick there, JL?
If Javonte Williams had gone, I would have taken CMC. But I would give the edge to Javonte Williams here. Mostly because of age, but I do expect CMC to score a lot of touchdowns for the remainder of his career. So I think that is a great pick by Simon.
So let's say Javonte Williams and Christian McCaffrey are both there. Are you taking both of them, or are you still taking CeeDee Lamb with?
Oh, that is a good question. I think
that's a tough one.
I think I would take Javonte Williams. I think I would have taken the same picks that I took.
Okay.
And that's just how I like to personally build teams. I don't like going double running back in a dynasty league unless there's like extreme value. So I'm gonna try and diversify here. And go running back, wide receiver.
What stood out, Matt? Was it Breece Hall?
Yeah. That's I mean, first rookie off the board, 2.6, and I know Hall's hype is getting ridiculous.
Ridiculous.
But that is
before we even know where he is.
That's kind of, I mean, I'm a big proponent over talent over landing spot always. Like that's how we get, CHC like over Jonathan Taylor situation. So when the profile, he does have the best all around profile for any running back in this class. There is really no arguing that. You can argue film and you can argue rushing production leans towards Walker, but he does have the best all around athletic
Breece Hall.
Yeah, absolutely. Exactly.
You just don't see it that often in college. His kind of pass catching production.
But you didn't see it at all with Kenneth Walker. You didn't see much of it with Breece Hall, but you didn't see any of it. So as far as an all-around profile, he's definitely the number one running back in my opinion. And
absolutely.
But there's a lot of talent on this board and a lot of almost guaranteed production. Like, I don't like to speak in absolutes, but a lot of guaranteed production on this board in the first 2 rounds. And I do think that's a little high for somebody that, like, anybody can be a bust. It doesn't matter how good their profile is.
Yeah.
No, yeah. I'm right there with you. JL, I gotta say, just one quick shout back to your 2 picks. I love your first 2 picks. I'm
they're very Joshy picks. I know you love CeeDee Lamb.
Love both those guys at the 12.
I am pretty high. Picks. I'm still very high on CeeDee Lamb. Yeah. I mean, I was never as high as everybody else in the first place. Like, he was never really a wide receiver 2 in Dynasty for me.
I was probably 2.
He was always somebody that I advised acquiring because guys like Jefferson and Chase would go in the first round and you could kind of wait back and get CD in the third. And I felt like their value was, I mean, at that one point of startups last year was very similar. Now it's almost like he's like a must buy for me. Like, I really, really like the idea of being able to acquire CD at wide receiver 6 value in Dynasty.
Me too.
We got a question here from Matizio asking, what draft strategy you guys like this year? Like hero RB again?
And I think we talked about it a little bit earlier. As you know, I personally, Matt, you love that zero RB as well. For me, it's just for all the Mac drafts, I'm just playing around with it. How about you, JL? What do you like?
Yeah, I'm very much a a balanced drafter, so I don't like to lock myself into a specific strategy until I see how the board is playing out, and then I like to adjust. But generally, the teams I like to build are balanced. Uh, I don't like boxing myself into being weak at one position unless the value has been there, because I feel like it limits you the moves you can make going forward.
Yeah.
And we're seeing balance out of your team, JL, and we're seeing it out of Matt's team, who took a running back, a tight end, and a wide receiver with his first 3 picks. So I think like Matt agrees a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, a strategy is a little different in a standard league. That's why I chose Metcalf over somebody that I may have equally as valued. But JL makes a good point too. And there is a little kind of a discount, or you might be kind of backing yourself into a corner going 0 running back or hero running back, because managers aren't like, they're not dumb to what you're doing. So they know that they can withhold those running backs from you. And if your team isn't succeeding, you're just not going to get that running back that needs to put you over the top. Like there is a bit of a keep away game when somebody goes really heavily into one asset, because you can't start all of those wide receivers. If it's a start 4 wide receiver league and you take 5 wide receivers in your first 5 picks or your first 6 picks, that kind of like one of those wide receivers is automatically going to be disvalued in your league, and it won't necessarily match the market, but guys know that you have to keep those points on the bench.
Yeah, I'm with you.
So what you're saying is, like, when you do that, sometimes you might have to overpay even to try to get that running back to set you over the top when it comes down to it, because your teammate knows, they're like, hey, you don't have any running backs. You're trying to win a championship this year. You're not going to do it without this guy. So pay up, man, pay up. So you can run into those situations, which sucks. But
Josh
trading makes fantasy fun, like I always say. So, like, try your best. Get out there, make some trades.
Right. It is all about being active and taking advantage of like peak trade windows. Like, we're 4 days away from probably the biggest peak trade window in all of Dynasty, and then there will be another peak trade window as soon as like OTA start, and there's camp videos of your favorite players. Like, think Terrace Marshall Jr. and how high his value got before the season even started. Which obviously is a bad example, but a great example.
Now we're all out on him now, right?
Yeah. So there are peak trade windows and times that you can take advantage of that. But yeah, I do like building a balanced team, but also again, like JL said, it's kind of about where the value is. Like, I'm not going to force myself into a heavy wide receiver build if the wide receiver value isn't there.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's all about that value. Just say, Matt, look, Toronto Dave in here. No freaking way, it's Matt. I'm rattled. I just pulled into the grocery store, but Matt is a GOAT, analyst, person, chef, etc. You do it all, Matt. Huh? Chef? You're a chef?
Yeah. Actually, that's
cook us something right now.
The 9 to 5. Well, I'm a breakfast chef, or it's actually a weird kind of like style that I've gotten into now. We do like kind of
fusion,
Creole French fusion, Southern Tex-Mex. Like, so it's like Louisiana style French brunch.
Yeah, you're not a cook. You're a chef. You're a real bona fide chef.
Yeah, I mean,
I used to work at like an upscale breakfast restaurant. It's called Shirley's. It's a southern, breakfast restaurant around this area, and so something like that. Kind of sounds very similar, to what you're kind of talking about there. And
so answer this question that I've had in my mind for a long time, Matt. Do chefs fart in the kitchen?
Absolutely.
Or is that a no-no?
No, 100%. It's super ventilated. That's so sometimes all the oil vapors and everything from, like, if you have a fryer, or if you're cooking with butter, or if you're cooking with propane, you have to have like a heavy ventilation system. So it's just.
You ever get somebody like you guys just try and have the stinkiest farts, so you beat the ventilation system and just mess with your coworkers?
There's also like such
I do that all the time.
Unless you're like, there's a weird thing that kind of like all cooks have, and I don't know if they like notice it until you like are conscious about it, but your olfactory senses are like messed up because you're just it's constantly like high heat, and like every smell is amalgamating. So it's like somebody's cooking garlic and onions while somebody else is making cinnamon rolls, while somebody else is making biscuits. yeah, it's just like it's not happening.
I got
How's
you.
the nerves and sensitivity in your hands? Is that just gone?
Non-existent.
Yeah, that's
yeah,
what I figured.
that's a real thing. Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
no, actually though.
Yeah, you will get like legitimate nerve damage in your fingers, and it's funny because like you don't think of it as a negative thing until
it
somebody
like
else
helps. Now I can put my hand in boiling water and I don't even feel
it. Yeah. But I mean, I love being a chef, and it was always like kind of, I guess, the same avenue for writing and creating content and being a part of this community is like I'm a creative first mind, so I need to find those types of outlets. Otherwise I kind of just, that's a good pick.
Yeah.
That's
again. We were talking about him. I think
that
it
was
was before JL even got
I was
in here.
really trying not to bring him up.
Low.
Yeah,
he was
I was actually
way too low in the rankings.
Yeah,
but let's be honest, Matt. He wasn't getting back to you, right?
No,
there's no way.
Well,
there's
no way. I think he was. No. But that was one of the ones that really stood out. And after I mentioned Javante and he went 112, I was like, I'm just gonna keep quiet about T and see if there's any way that 54 or whatever it was ADP value actually holds up.
How about Saquon Barkley, Matt? That was JL's second pick. And I know JL, like, I think this is solid value, but how do you feel about Saquon Barkley going forward?
I do think that's great value on him to start, especially in a standard league. Like I would have in Dynasty, I have Saquon ranked higher than Cam Akers, and Cam Akers went 2.5. So I'm not a big, like, I don't know, like injury prone kind of that tag doesn't necessarily worry me too much. Like,
me neither.
I think a big misconception is that you can't like replace high end talent in fantasy. And no, you're not going to get the same points per game numbers, but that's kind of what it means to be a good or crafty manager is you can find those replacements and those value gaps, by streaming through or making small trades for undervalued guys that are going to peak out or even as simple as something as like rostering a handcuff if that handcuff is a legitimate asset. So moving forward, I'm not as worried about Saquon's health as everybody else is. And on a per touch basis, even last year, he's still Saquon Barkley.
Yeah. I think he'll come out of it. I think he'll bounce back.
Yeah, and I really like the moves that the Giants have made. Like, I think they've kind of flew under the radar because Jacksonville got super wild with how they wanted to allocate money in free agency. But the Giants made a lot of really good moves, and not just like they brought in some good offensive line talent. They have got some good capital in the draft to work with, but that coaching staff, they kind of have cleared house and brought in a lot of solid coaches that know how to build a winning team and specifically a strong run game.
Yeah. Yeah, it'd be interesting. I don't think we've had a chance to talk about this. What do you guys think about the Kadarius Toney rumors that are swirling?
What do I think?
Giants,
I mean,
like
he's being a dingus, I mean, like apparently there's rumors like seriously, he's not showing up. He didn't come to pick up like his playbook and stuff, and like he just is, and he's kind of he's had some of these concerns like prior as well. So I don't blame the Giants. Like if he's just not the player you want, he's not acting right. Yeah, try to get what you can for him. You really only had a game or two where he showed elite production. I mean, not even elite production. He had one game with great production, but with the ball in his hands, he does look electric. But outside of that, what has he really shown? So if you can get something for him, I'm fine with it.
Scott Fish coming in saying multiple beat reporters reported he's absolutely there this weekend and is there today. I like the absolutely word.
Yeah, that makes it sound like sarcastic. Almost. Like it almost sounds like you're not serious.
Ooh, this is an interesting spot here.
When Dan Stan SFB invites going out today.
A lot of running backs in that round. The last round. Scott came in here and said, what kind of draft do you guys prefer? I'll be the first one to answer this one. For me, for dynasty leagues, it's super flex, 100% super flex. I don't know if I'm actually going to do another non-super flex dynasty league again. I've got a couple and I love those leagues. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying you can't have a lot of fun in a non-super flex league, but there's just so much more you can do in a super flex league. It creates so much more value for the quarterbacks. Obviously, you can so much more strategy, so many more possible trades that you can make happen. So Superflex is the way to go for me. But in redraft, I actually still prefer just normal PPR leagues.
Really?
I love doing a Superflex league and redraft, but I'm just fine with normal PPR leagues and redraft leagues. Normal. Yeah, exactly.
I like both. I think I always prefer. I mean, Dynasty. I just prefer to play Dynasty, but also I can't play as many Dynasty leagues. So there's a limit on that with redraft. I mean, there's a limit on redraft too, but it's less of a commitment. So I do like that for just throwing up leagues. But draft wise,
I'll take my first rookie.
Drake London. Is that the first rookie wide receiver off the board? It is.
I think it was. Yeah. Yes.
All
right.
So he's your first rookie wide receiver. He's your rookie wide receiver number 1.
He would probably be my rookie wide receiver 1 in standard. Garrett Wilson is my rookie wide receiver 1 in super flex half PPR leagues. I just think that he's going to be able to support a bit more of a volume role where Drake London is kind of like a supersized Mike Evans. Not supersized, but more at,
he's like Mike Evans.
Yeah. Yeah, he's like Mike Evans. There you go. Yeah. So
no, exactly. I think that's a great point. I mean, in standard, like while Garrett Wilson, I do have above Drake London, just like you do. In standard league, that might be enough for me to make the switch. I'm still very interested to see where he gets drafted, Drake London specifically. I just have a little bit more concerns with his ability to separate once he comes into the NFL. So I want a quarterback that can air out the football and put it right on him. And if he gets that quarterback, I'm all in on Drake London. More than most, but Garrett Wilson's my number 1.
Yeah, well, and I
there
think
it goes.
Yeah, it was, and Burks right after that. It's kind of
Burks,
I was wondering if this like round 5 tier was going to hold up.
Yeah, absolutely.
In the ADP that we're kind of that we have here for standard, it's really like tight end and quarterback heavy for the 5th round. But guys are obviously Elijah Mitchell pretty early.
Yeah. I just think like when I can see the actual running backs available, but I feel like we're probably hitting the kind of borderline where there's really not many starting running backs left. Am I right?
Yeah.
Like who's left in the running backs?
And this is
Damian Harris.
This area is exactly why I like the hero or zero RB build, because of kind of, it's almost a psychological thing. Like, that guys are gonna, if they're not, like, you can see after the first 2 or 3 rounds how teams are kind of projecting their build, whether they're going to go heavy wide receiver, grab a quarterback early, 2 tight ends if it's tight end premium. So you kind of know the trajectory of how guys are attempting to draft. So in this area where people are going to reach for like Clyde Edwards-Helaire went 4.7, Walker 4.6, Ezekiel Elliott 4.10. Like, I don't want any of those running backs in that round when I can still have Keenan Allen, Garrett Wilson, Treylon Burks, Calvin Ridley.
I got to shout out Simon here in the chat. My man, Matt, Drake London, rookie wide receiver 1, especially in standard. Simon is all in on Drake London, so he's right there with you.
I love it.
And Matt, I mean, like, honestly, like, look at this, maybe burying the lead even a little bit. Drake London, first rookie wide receiver picked, but you also drafted Justin Herbert over guys like Patrick Mahomes, Kyler Murray, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow. So Justin Herbert's your number 2 quarterback, huh? Or is he number 1 even, maybe?
No, actually, that one is a little bit of a favoritism pick. Just, it's kind of it's more so the way that I see it is the money that the Chiefs and the Bills have allocated to those 2 quarterbacks right now don't leave much more room for improvement. That's kind of their ceiling. And Justin Herbert is already QB3 without those level of stacked offenses. The Chargers have great capital. They are, have, I think still it's like a top 5 salary cap room. That's why they gave Mike Evans that big extension there, because they still have so much money to work with. And he's, Mike Williams. So it's kind of just a projecting into the future thing. I just have that feeling that LA is going to be able to give him the type of tools where he's going to put up multiple QB1 seasons overall, like the QB1 seasons. And I don't think that
I like it.
Isn't true about Mahomes, Allen. I mean, not huge on Burrow, but like Lamar, Kyler, like, I don't think that that's not true about them. I just like the trajectory of that offense a lot more than the other ones, especially with Kyler currently. Like, he might just sit out an entire year and then they not exercise his 5th round or 5th year option. And then he's still Kyler Murray and is a free agent a year early.
I mean, listen, I've been saying this the entire offseason. Josh Allen Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert, they are a tier of quarterbacks for me. You take any in a super flex league, you could take either one of the three, and I am completely fine with it as one of my first 3 picks, actually. So I'm actually right there with you. I think Justin Herbert belongs to be mentioned with the Josh Allens and Patrick Mahomes of the world, right there.
I think Burrow over Mahomes is way crazier than Herbert over any of the other ones.
Yeah. I completely agree. I think those 3 quarterbacks separate themselves just a little bit for Dynasty.
JL just
were you hoping Pittman
which one?
Or Devonta Smith?
Pittman was way down there, like
he was
way down in like the 80s. So that was, I mean, I think that's really good value. Even if the Colts bring in a wide receiver, it's not like they have anybody really on that offense that's going to command targets. Matt Ryan likes big body receivers. It might take down his touchdown production if he follows in the same path as Julio. But yeah, Pittman's really good value for me right now. Yeah, I think that's kind of the peak of where I would take him to, is in the end of the 5th. I mean, kind of like we already reiterated, is I like a lot of those rookie wide receivers in that little tier. But yeah, Pittman's a good pick, man.
Thank you, man. Appreciate that.
Scott, apparently it sounds guys are drafting fantastic teams so far. To be
You're just being nice, Josh.
No, I'm not being nice to you. I'm definitely not being nice to you.
Yeah, I know. You would never necessarily be nice. Scott said, apparently it sounds like Tony is there, but not doing camp. So he's just like sitting in his car in the parking lot.
That was something that I was going to kind of brag about a little, is we held a podcast right before right before the, like the day that it was kind of announced that he was looking for a trade. And one of the things that kind of, I mean, Josh mentioned, but nobody was paying attention to, is that it's a brand new offense with a brand new playbook, and he was the only member of the offense that didn't show up to voluntary camps. Even like guys weren't working out; they literally just showed up to day one to grab the playbook. That's what the majority of them did, and it's not like uncommon for guys to sit out in voluntary camps, but usually that's like dudes that are like waiting on a contract. Yeah. Vets are like Kyler's doing it right now because he's waiting on a contract. Debo's doing it right now because they're waiting on contracts.
Tony's just being a knucklehead.
Yeah, it was weird. It was just strange. And again, it wasn't like it was workouts or whatever. The guys just showed up to get the playbook because Brian Daboll is the new head coach. Like it was kind of just a, meet the coach thing. So it was really strange. And then we mentioned, I was like, maybe they're trying to look to like move on from Tony, or maybe he doesn't feel like, or there might be rumblings that they're taking a wide receiver and he feels like he wants to be the alpha and this and that. So that kind of turned out to be more true than any of us expected. It was supposed to just be a hot take.
Yeah, man, the last 3 picks before, well, I guess with Marquise Brown, you could throw in there too. But the Amon-Ra St. Brown, Hawkinson, and Elijah Moore, all 3 were really good picks, in my opinion. I was considering Hawkinson at the turn.
100% agree. And, I have Elijah Moore in a tier with Devonta Smith and Michael Pittman, absolutely. And Jared, so, yeah.
Good job, Tommy.
Yeah. And then Scott said, just going back to Taylor, do you guys see Taylor taking a step back at all? For me personally, no. I think it was already kind of mentioned, like with Jonathan Taylor, kind of getting that upgrade in quarterback. He's got a great offensive line. I expect more or less what we saw last season. How about you, Dale?
I can absolutely see him taking a step back.
You could.
I'm not gonna predict it. I think he had a lot of touchdowns this past year, so I think taking a step back from where he was is absolutely in the realm of possibilities here. I don't think, and I think the essence of this question is like, does he take a significant step back? And I don't think that is very probable. I don't think that. I agree with Josh. I think not much really has changed for him, and he's going to be in a good offense with a good offensive line, and he's still just as talented as he was. So.
Well, yeah, he said, do you see Taylor's taking a step back? I haven't seen it.
I also have not seen it. Yeah.
His only like step backs in production were when they're not giving him the volume.
Right. Which may happen. It's going to happen with some games.
Yeah. Maybe Nyheim Hines gets more involved. He's still there. Maybe
they just focus on using the wide receivers. I don't know.
Yeah.
Matt Ryan, we can see something change.
You have Cup at 3.
No. I'll take those 2 picks.
3. And Scott, you said Josh might get lucky. I'm not actually drafting. You might see JP.
But you just might get lucky.
That's my brother. That's my brother, by the way.
Okay, that makes sense.
But Scott
I love Brandon Ayuk,
by the way. Thank you.
Yeah. And that's good value. And then taking Chris Olave there right behind him.
I mean, I am really high on Chris Olave, and I actually don't think like separation metrics matter as much as everybody else kind of leans into. We see guys that separation can kind of be judged in many ways. So when you just see like, I don't like the metrics that are like he has 2.3 yards of separation per target. I like the kind of success per route separation metrics, like what Matt Harmon does at reception perception, and Chris Olave's collegiate reception profile at reception protect is ridiculous. It's so nice.
He's very high on Chris Olave, if I remember right.
I think like without necessarily full on admitting it, he might be his wide receiver 1 in his heart. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he has the best reception perception profile of any of the rookie wide receivers. Kind of like by far.
There's a couple other rookie wide receivers, and I don't want to give it away, but that I think they're in the same tier as Olave, but I actually would take ahead of him still here. And I guess I won't get into it.
I think I know kind of exactly who you're thinking about.
Again, it's really we're splitting hairs because again, I think Chris Olave is going to be a first round pick in the NFL draft. I think it's very likely, and I think he's very talented. So they're in the same tier for me. So.
Yeah, and kind of speaking of that draft capital as well, as a guy that like I like to focus on analytics first. That's kind of where I build up my prospect profiles, or analytically first. And Olave kind of doesn't smash those analytical profiles because he was on arguably the most stacked offense in all of NCAA. But there's also something to be said when you stay above the regression line when you're on an offense with 5 future first round wide receivers.
That's crazy.
Right?
The wide receivers on Ohio State were crazy, man.
And they're crazy this year too. Like they're
still crazy.
So yeah. And I mean, so crazy enough that Jameson Williams is being projected and is the betting favorite now on like DraftKings to be the first wide receiver selected off the board. And he couldn't play on that team. Like he couldn't make it onto the field.
Yeah. I've been doing a lot of like looking into that specifically, and maybe there are some other reasons why he wasn't getting onto the field.
It's certainly a product of the scheme.
Yes.
For sure. That is a huge kind of like, but you can write that narrative, and that's what's so interesting about guys like Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave is they're not going to be everybody's favorite analytical prospect or their pre-draft percentile. Isn't necessarily at the top of the list, but when you get that first round or top 20 draft capital added to it, when you add that to their profile, it extends that range of outcomes into something spectacular.
Yeah. And you know what's even crazier is like, if you look at Jameson Williams' stats at Ohio, like he literally did nothing. And then all of a sudden he goes to Alabama, has an awesome season, and then he tears his ACL in a national championship game. He might not even be ready for the start of the season. And he like you said, he still might be the first wide receiver drafted. It's crazy. I mean, I guess I'll just say it. I love Jameson Williams though. He's so fast. So I would draft him over Olave, but I understand taking Olave ahead of him. There's a million reasons to do so.
Yeah. Well, and Jameson is, because of that best season, that Alabama season, and how those other games kind of like don't meet the analytical minimums. He is an absolutely incredible prospect, and speed kills. Like we know that the NFL loves speed, and they love those guys more than we do in fantasy. But again, with that draft capital, or that if he's the first wide receiver off the board and it is in the top 20, and you put that draft capital into his rookie profile, that range of outcomes puts him in a very elite tier.
Yeah. Albert came in here and said, "Where would you draft Breece Hall if the Bills drafted him?" I see you're on the board. You're picking right now, JL. But I know, Matt, you said that you were very surprised that 206 Breece Hall right there. Is it still under if he goes to the Bills? Like, let's just say in a normal 1 quarterback league, we'll even say PPR. Okay, we'll say PPR.
Yeah, a little bit, I think, but I mean,
the
Bills
high, you're saying?
Yeah.
I'm with you.
That the Bills are that team though that like they've been the fantasy favorite to be the team to like draft a running back, and that running back is going to be the running back that we value over all of the rookies. But they're also not a team that is traditionally been fantasy friendly for running backs. Like they don't use that volume.
They already have their goal line running back, right?
Exactly.
His name's Josh.
Exactly my point. Yeah. So when you have Josh Allen
last name
putting up 12, 13 rushing touchdowns within the 10-yard line every season. Like that's definitely going to cap the upside of a rookie running back from a fantasy perspective. But as far as like a functional perspective and how much his value will be if he gets drafted to the Bills, like, and you're looking to make a flip or trade that 1-1 or 1-2 away, then him being drafted to the Bills boosts his dynasty value more than any other team, arguably.
Yeah. Are you at all worried about Devin Singletary? Do you think he'd be a factor? I mean, if they're drafting Brees, they're probably buying into Brees.
And that's exactly it. Is if they do draft Brees and that is the landing spot, I think it's more so the opposite, where you can kiss Devin Singletary's late season production goodbye.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Hey, JL, Rashad Bateman, and Michael Carter, two rookies from last year that are definitely that seem to fall right into your lap here. Yeah, they definitely did stuff. I like both those picks.
Thank you.
I like your team coming together. You got 5 really young, solid, great wide receivers.
It's a good core.
Yeah, great core. You had
really
all worried about quarterback or tight end, JL?
No. I mean, a little bit tight end. We're past this point of like, I'm just gonna punt for a little bit now because there's no sense in reaching on tight end here. I'll just suck it up and then maybe try and trade one of my assets to shore up that tight end position before the season starts. But quarterback, not at all. There's so much value. I talk about this every time we do a 1 QB draft. There is so much value still on the board in the 8th round that I'm not at all concerned.
Yeah, there is kind of, now that like the ADP is playing out a little bit and I'm getting further down on my list as well. It is definitely an area where like I still really like, even in Dynasty, I still really like guys like Kirk Cousins. I still really like guys like in a 1 QB league, Jalen Hurts, Dak Prescott. Like these are all kind of later guys that doesn't seem like they're hopping off the board right away. So yeah.
Not Jalen Hurts was like the quarterback 2 for most of the season. I know he didn't end there, but like points per game.
Yeah.
Like, you might not have the longevity with Jalen Hurts, but like if he's playing, he's gonna put up top 12 numbers at least, right?
And you know what's the beauty about 1 QB leagues, especially Dynasty, is that every year you get a new batch of rookies that come in. So it's really not difficult to fix your QB position if you're weak there, which is why I always like just waiting.
Yeah, I think that's a much better strategy. I mean, I'm not going to say regret, but yeah, Herbert probably a little early for me when I kind of think about the back end build.
That's what mocks are for, though.
Wide receivers, the wide receivers that got grabbed there. I think I would have, I would have liked a little bit more depth in that because I'm at like my 5th wide receiver being Chris Olave, which I mean, obviously that value on paper sounds great, but I think there's was a kind of a wider window of opportunity there where I really could have stacked that position front heavy.
Yeah.
Coming here now saying that he did not know this was non-PPR, but he said that after the first 3 picks, I believe. And I think he's Jones Karen.
Yep.
Yeah, Jones Karen. So Najee Harris, DJ Moore, Jalen Waddle. Yeah, DJ Moore and Jalen. Actually, all these guys are guys you want in PPR leagues when it comes down to it. But at the same time, they're all young, great players. So
I'm totally cool with Najee there.
In standard and PPR, I don't think you should freak out. Like you shouldn't be like, oh, this guy catches too many passes. So no, if they're great players, they're great players when it comes down to it.
Doesn't change my strategy very much.
Exactly. I think people probably let that influence them a little bit too much when switching between the 2 formats, but great players are great players. And it seems like you kind of agree a little bit as well, both of you guys.
Yeah, to me, it's a nuanced thing. It's a good way to break a tiebreaker, or it slightly gives like one specific type of player, like for instance, Derrick Henry. It gives them moderate boost, but it's apart from that, it's really not affecting my decision making.
Yeah, I agree to a certain extent there. Like, and that's just it. It kind of breaks value tiers for me, but not necessarily rankings. Yeah. So, like in a position where I have DK Metcalf and DJ Moore ranked so closely together, I would have leaned Metcalf because of that. His floor is kind of predicated on the fact that he scores a lot of touchdowns.
Right.
Do you have DJ Moore ranked ahead in PPR? Or are they just very close?
No, they're very close though.
they're just very close. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I like DJ Moore a lot, and
I think they're back
essentially the only thing missing from his profile is incredible touchdown production, which
what he has like six touchdowns every year. It's like he has like this pretty much the same amount of touchdowns like every year. It's like 5 or 6.
I mean, I'm just gonna go ahead and do it. He's only suspended for a year.
Calvin Ridley, I think this is slightly higher than we typically see him get drafted, but like to your point, he's gonna be back the year after, or at least we all hope so. Maybe he's a little bit on the older side, but he's extremely talented.
Yeah, I mean, I have no problem grabbing Ridley there. Probably somebody that I would normally wait on, but again, like I've got no issue with that pick, especially with kind of the way that I'm projecting this build out. Yeah, and I think I'm going to go back to the rookie well here.
George Pickens, I love it. I think that is excellent value for Pickens right there.
Yeah,
while there's a lot of question marks, the upside is certainly there.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. And again, it's kind of just the way that I like to build teams out. He's somebody that I really have been low on leading up to this area, and now I'm getting higher and higher on his profile. I like players a lot when the NFL likes players a lot.
Yeah, me too.
So and again,
draft capital matters.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is kind of like the liar stage of the draft anyway. Like teams are going to blow smoke leading up to it, so you don't want to give away too much information. But Pickens is somebody that's going to go higher than I previously thought, which definitely raises his ranking for me. And somebody that I'm really happy to get in the 9th round of a startup.
I'm thinking somewhere in the mid to early 2nd round draft.
Exactly. Yeah.
Myself. And
which is also
the case, that's where we saw Michael Pittman get picked, T. Higgins, plenty of guys, plenty of DK Metcalf.
Yeah, it's a very sweet spot for wide receiver production.
Yeah, so
and it's also a really sweet spot in the draft for a landing spot, which again, we've said that we all prefer, or I prefer talent over landing spot and production profile over landing spot. But when production profiles are equal, or guys are valued the same, then landing spot means a whole lot. And if Pickens is in that mid-2nd round range, there's a lot of wide receiver needy teams that already have really productive offenses.
Yeah. Right there with you. Now, Dan said that Fantasy Nav is crushing this draft. He's drafting from the 4 spot there. How do you guys feel about his team? I like it. Justin Jefferson, you can't complain about that as your number 1 overall pick. Stephon Diggs and Devontae Adams, older wide receivers, sure, but they are studs. And then he just loaded up with tight end. Got his tight end there, Dalton Schultz, and then running backs. This team is going to compete year 1.
Yeah, I like the team a lot. For years. Very balanced.
Yeah, and that the Wilson pick late too. That's excellent. Yeah, I think that's a pretty good team. I also really like Dalton Schultz, and I think I'm a little higher than him, or on him than consensus rather. But I would have Goddard probably ranked slightly ahead. But Schultz is somebody that I just don't think he quite gets the respect that he deserves. Like
he doesn't.
He's had 2 back-to-back top 12 finishes. And I know when you're in that bottom tier, kind of outside of that top 3, that it's like 14 points separates 5 from 12. But, he's somebody that you don't have to chase production from. Like he puts up top tight end numbers week in and week out, and has the ability and the role to finish as a top 3 tight end.
Which he just did. Was he 3 or 4? Yeah. Whatever. I mean, he was a great tight end last year. I mean, PPR, he's going to be a little bit better in, but they lost Amari Cooper too. They still have Dak Prescott, and he's another year off that injury. So, I mean, Michael Gallup will be back, sure, but Dalton Schultz is probably going to be would anyone be surprised if he's a top 3 tight end again? I'm not going to be surprised. I agree. I think I personally probably still have him too low. I probably have to move him up a little bit. Dalton Schultz.
Yeah, and I think there's a pretty obvious connection with Prescott, and Dallas just invested into him and cut Blake Jarwin. I mean, I guess there was kind of a nuance to that as Jarwin failed his physicals, but they are committing. They have committed, and Schultz is their guy. So I know that the volume on Dallas kind of switched back to the run game in this previous year, but the further that we move down the line with that team and the older Zeke gets and that O-line needs rebuilding again, I think they're going to have to look for more quick hitting passing options. And that's when they found their most success, is when they were utilizing that and then using Zeke within the 20. So that definitely opens up a lot for Schultz.
Yeah. Scott came in here and said, in Dynasty, do you guys put more of a premium in winning now or building for 1 or 2 years down the line? Does this change your drafting philosophy? And to be completely honest, Scott, I do not always make this decision going in. I'll kind of play the board, and I try to draft young studs at the top. Jonathan Taylor's, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase's, AJ Brown, CD Lamb's, Javonte Williams of the world, young guys that I know will produce. And then when it comes down to it, I let the value fall to me. And if that ends up being older players, then I try to kind of go that direction. And if it ends up being younger players, I kind of try to go that direction. I'm still trying to win regardless when it comes down to it. I still want to win, but just building my team to win this year and building it to win, but be young is a little bit different, right? So
yeah, I don't love that win now mentality. I think it gets thrown around a lot. And the way that I like to really think about this is like, I'm trying to build the best probability that I'm going to win 1 or more championships over the next 3 years. That's kind of how I think about it. So that, every move it doesn't just have the either win now or rebuild axis, but it has another axis here of like, is this going to allow me to be nimble going forward and adjust my team to have the best chance to win in the next couple of years as well? And so that's why I really dislike trades where it's like, oh, I'm going to go throw away long-term value for really short-term value because I'm win now and I have the chance to win.
Yeah, I basically completely agree with everything there. Yeah. And I mean, I definitely, I mean, as you can see on the board, like I do like to draft a little younger. I kind of do favor youth a bit in a startup, but it's also like I'm building a dynasty. Like there is something to be said. Like, obviously you want to take home the ship, but doing it once for me isn't enough. So I kind of try to have a even balance of value and production. And as long as the team is good enough, or I feel like the team is good enough to make the playoffs, then I'm in a pretty comfortable position, because once you're in those final 4 weeks, anything can happen.
Yeah.
And Matt, I got to tell you, like, I'm just looking over these drafts. Like, if I'm building a team, I do kind of like have an idea. I kind of want to build it just like yours. I'm being completely honest here. Like, if you can snag one of those top tier young running backs, that's great. Throw in Kyle Pitts, even better, and then just load up on these young, incredibly high upside wide receivers. This is kind of what I'm all about when it comes down to it. But you can win doing this game in a lot of different ways.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, I am playing into the startup a bit, kind of with like the mentality of our timing for it. And it's just before the draft. So if, for those of you that like to draft pre-draft, you have to keep in mind that draft capital and those projected landing spots, like adjust those to your profiles and your picks, because they're going to change things. And if you get somebody like Olave, like Pickens, well, Olave would be maybe top 20, Pickens top 35. If you get those guys with that draft capital, their value is going to skyrocket before they ever touch the field.
Yep.
No doubt. Regardless of where they land, really,
Yeah. As long as that high draft capital is attached, right? And yes, of course, landing spot will drive unnecessary values up and unnecessary values down, but it is more so. There's Rondale. I like Rondale Moore so much, man.
He's so explosive. Yeah, and then no Christian Kirk. He's going to get the ball in his hands a lot more this next season. So we're going to see if he's the real deal.
Yeah, and I mean, we're very far removed from that true freshman season, but I refuse to believe that Rondale Moore just forgot how to be good at football.
I do trust the Cardinals kind of getting him the ball. I hope Kyler Murray's there, though, I guess, when it comes down to it.
Yeah, I guess we'll see, too, with DeAndre Hopkins coming back.
Yeah, they're just like literally as opposite as you can get.
Yes, I just mean more so just, having that fill out the offense. But
will help.
Different roles.
Yeah. And then they got Zach Ertz coming back, I believe. Who also is different in his own right. He definitely more the middle of the field, but he's a bigger body. Jail. Yeah. You check your DMs? I mean, your texts?
Yeah, I did.
All right, good. I want to make sure you cover
check DMs and text. Yep.
I think that's who I like.
Ooh, I like that. I like that pick. Yeah. This is like perfect time, I think, to go high upside rookies that are there.
Yeah, and I mean, it's specifically with Rachaad White, he would be probably my RB4 off the board, a lot closer to that Spiller tier, or that, I guess that Spiller tier than even before the combine results. But yeah, that's kind of, I think this is the area when you're building out hero running back or zero running back that you can, and I mean, it wasn't much of a reach based on ADP, but that you can kind of grab that more overlooked or underlooked rookie. And I might just do it again.
I think the problem with him is that he's really known for his pass catching work. Not that you can't be relevant when even in a standard non-PPR league, while you're a pass catching running back, it's just I guess that's what you'd be a little bit worried about, right?
Yeah.
And there he is, Kadarius Toney. Hey, if he gets traded to the Packers or the Chiefs or something like that, who knows?
Anybody other than the Giants, in all honesty, because you would kind of have to assume that if somebody's making that trade, they're buying into exactly what he does, and what he does is a short A dot, like just rip the field open type of guy. I mean, and specifically because this guy doesn't want to be in San Francisco anymore, I think it would be pretty wild if San Fran went out and got Toney on the cheap.
Ooh, that is interesting. And just use him in a real weird way.
I was comparing him to Deebo Samuel a lot, so that makes a lot of sense.
They're very similar, man. And I know, like, yes, Tony's not the same, like, brick house that Deebo Samuel
much smaller, right?
Deebo? Yeah,
but it's the way that they're utilized and the way that they accelerate in the role is having blockers already downfield, catching something really short and taking it to the house. And Toney has that ability in spades. And that's why he was drafted so high. That's where New York found success with him when they were using him and when they finally did commit in those few weeks before his injury to using him as essentially the wide receiver one. So anybody that gets Toney, I think, would try to use them in a similar role. And he's a great, obviously for PPR, a little higher, but I still think he's a great dynasty asset. Like, he's not somebody that I'm writing off just because of these, camps and trade talks.
He's kind of a big play waiting to happen, which can be good for standard. You know what I'm saying? Just one big play that makes your day, PPR or standard, right? So
it makes your day.
Exactly. So I really I like both those picks when it comes down to it. Are you at all? I know you're a zero running back guy. Are you at all worried about your running backs? We're only doing 12 rounds here, so there would be more rounds if we were doing actual dynasty league, obviously. But you're cool with this, right? This is typical for you.
Oh, for sure, 100%. And I genuinely do think that Rachaad White has top 24 upside as a rookie, so that would cover that kind of that area of production that you would need or hope for when you're building this out. Is somebody kind of just to cover that gap a little bit while you move assets around and look for opportunities to maximize on your value. But I'm 100%. This is exactly how I like to build teams. And to speak to like further rounds, because I don't know if these guys will really come off the board, so I'm not so afraid of kind of giving it away. But guys like Kenny Gainwell and Khalil Herbert, those are guys that I really like as middle of the season, high upside handcuffs, that if something were to happen to either one of the starters, we have both seen them produce in a top 15 RB role in fantasy, especially Herbert without Montgomery. And Kenny Gainwell is kind of low key I think he's going to turn into like a real PPR stud for the running backs. And obviously that's a little different in standard, but there's still two guys that I really like as dynasty assets.
Yeah. I'm seeing Chase Edmonds go off the board there, who kind of projects to be maybe the starter for the Dolphins. I know there's concerns with Raheem Mostert, and Myles Gaskin is still there. You have any interest in Chase Edmonds, Matt?
Yeah, I do, actually. Definitely somebody that I was even thinking about taking over Rachaad White there. I think Edmonds showed enough in Arizona that, running backs get injured. So again, it's not something that I'm overly concerned with. And he showed enough for me in Arizona as a split option that he can be a lead or at least be, the focal point in the passing game, and something that the Dolphins kind of lacked from their running backs before. I think he's a great fit. He's fast enough to play at a high level in McDaniel's stretch zone run blocking scheme. So I do like Chase Edmonds. I like him more as a redraft asset than a dynasty asset, but he's somebody that I would definitely target on a hero RB build right in this area as well.
I agree. That's kind of what I brought it up. I think he would be a good addition to you. Like maybe even like consider him over Tony, maybe, like just a possible, you could.
No, for sure.
Maybe. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Especially in that build. Like I almost leaned double running backs there. And again, it's kind of,
we're doing mock drafts. We're trying things out. We're seeing what works. We're like, what looks good, right?
Exactly. So I do really like Edmonds' value there. And the way that Tommy Gunn has built that team out, that's a great. Like he got Rashad Penny late and Chase Edmonds late, so those are really good stopgap running backs, guys that are going to fill out your flex spot for a year, and you can still, make moves with them. Like their value, Penny's a weird one because the historical production isn't there, but the value will peak on both those guys if they step into the presumed roles that their offense is giving them. Like if Penny is the lead back in Seattle, he will be valued higher than some of the guys that went, well, maybe not quite, but like I could see Penny being valued higher than James Robinson is comes the start of the season.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, I value him over James Robinson.
I probably value him higher there now. Yeah, exactly.
No offense, James Robinson. You're a good running back. You just had a pretty serious injury, and Travis Etienne
is the real deal. Yeah. I think.
Say that again, real fat, Matt, for JL,
please.
Travis Etienne's the real deal.
Yes. Thank you, Josh. I needed that. I was too afraid to ask myself.
I'm sorry, JL's on the clock. You really distracted him there.
Yeah.
I think people forget, man. Like there was a legitimate argument to be made because Najee Harris's profile was kind of propped up on his senior season and nothing before that. And being from the running back warehouse of Alabama. But people forget that there was a point where Travis Etienne post NCAA season was the RB1 of fantasy football.
Yeah. I mean, once Najee Harris went to the Steelers, it wasn't even wasn't even a question. They were like, "Oh, Najee Harris is." If ETN went to the Steelers and Najee Harris went to the Jaguars, it would have been
100%. Exactly.
I'm very confident about that. There's almost no doubt in my mind. So that's a great point, Matt.
Agree.
That's a great point. That is a great point. And who knows where we'd be sitting here. Let's just say, for example, they played the whole season. ETN doesn't have that injury, maybe. Najee Harris, they played the whole season. ETN might be in the first round right now. Who knows?
I think it's definitely recency bias, like very much affecting his value. And it's not affecting as much as I thought it would. Like his value has gone up more this offseason.
3.7. Yeah, that's pretty good draft capital.
Yeah, that's right about where I would. I'd probably put him with upside, obviously higher because I believe in his talent. But I don't think he's as much as a value anymore as I've been screaming.
Yeah, I think it's because you've been screaming it so much. Everyone's listening.
Maybe.
That's true. It's true.
Swamp City tried the win now strategy for this one, and he doesn't think it's for him.
It's a good team, to be completely honest with you, Swamp. Derrick Henry, number 2 overall. I think that's a bit of a reach. For me, I just couldn't do it. Again, we talked about the 27-year-old running backs, and he'll be 28 next season. The second overall pick in a dynasty, I just couldn't do it. But he's a beast. Alvin Kamara, that's a good pick. Josh Jacobs, that's a good pick. James Conner, I can't complain about a lot of these other picks, however. So this team could be extremely good. This team could win the championship.
Very win now.
Yeah, it's a very win now team, but it definitely can.
Yeah,
I wish you had a tight end. If you had a tight, obviously, I'm guessing you might take one here. Maybe you don't have to by any means. I mean, again, this is a mock draft. We would be drafting more. So, I wish you had a better tight end to fill in here, but I like it.
Yeah, the biggest thing that I learned in mocks is one of the biggest things that I learned in mocks is positional scarcity, meaning exactly that. Like you know that you can build a team from that spot to win now, but you would probably take a tight end a little earlier to keep that window elongated and to kind of fill out the roster with basically like set it and forget it lineups.
Yeah. And out of probably anybody who is like consistently watching us, Swamp has turned these like mock drafts, and he does exactly what we're talking about, where he like takes the mock draft and then he learns from it. And he's gotten so much better since he first started coming in here. Yeah, and I think he's a shining example of that, and doing exactly what he's doing here. It's just let me try something brand new. Yeah, don't always draft how you normally draft.
Here's another thing, like Brandon Cooks, for example. What if he takes Dallas Goedert there instead of Brandon Cooks? I think that improves his team, in my opinion.
Yep. And I think the fact that he got those running back values in 2, 3, and 4
he's trying to
makes
win
the Derrick Henry pick a little, not as good. But obviously, he didn't know he was going to go that when he picked.
I'm taking that back a little bit because Brandon Cooks is kind of valuable to his team in a 3 wide receiver league if he's trying to win now. Now I'm like analyzing this because you can't really rely on Donovan Peoples-Jones, Braxton Berrios, or Justin Ross next season.
Yeah, I probably would have. I think Connor was probably a reach too. Personally,
Connor high up there. Yeah, I think that might have been also an area that you could have gotten, maybe kept that wide receiver room kind of young up there.
That's a good
now
point.
It's Keenan Allen, Michael Thomas, Brandon Cooks, and you could have had one of those high upside guys too to kind of keep that window living.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm just like looking at the running backs like after Connor, and like sure, David Montgomery and Elijah Mitchell are good, but like he kind of if he wanted a running back there, like that was kind of the running backs are drying up right there. Is kind of what I'm trying the point I'm trying to make.
Yeah, for sure.
But he didn't really need a running back either.
That's true. Yeah, pretty set there. He said love the last 3 picks. So I guess the way I'm building it is how Swamp normally builds a team. Yeah, I think this is normally how I build it as well.
And I like that you took 2 very high upside quarterbacks there, JL, to just like, you're not fully bought into either, and that's fine. One of these guys is most likely going to be a stud, and you could even stream a little bit,
I almost went, instead of Tua, I almost went Tom Brady to offset, because I feel like Fields is the best, dynasty-wise. Yeah, and I don't know which side I land on here because I think I believe Tua is going to jump up in value. I think he's going to have
You're a big Tua fan.
I'm higher on Tua probably than consensus. Justin Fields, I believe he's going to have long-term value this season. I don't know. And that's why I felt like I needed to take another QB. But yeah, I think Tom Brady would have been a great strategy there as well. Just offset that, get that guy this year.
Yeah,
guys,
I like that strategy as well.
We finished.
We did it. We did it. A little late, but we did it.
A little late. Hey, Matt, thanks for hanging with us.
Yes.
Thanks for hanging a little bit late. I hope we didn't ruin anything for you over there.
No, it's so much fun, man. Honestly, I appreciate it. I just appreciate being on.
This was a lot of fun, Matt. And Matt, I'm just speaking for everyone. We need to get you back on so we can actually play a competitive game because I want to beat you at some kind of game. Maybe let's see, Fantasy Fortune. I want to beat you at Fantasy Fortune or something like that. All
right, I'll clear up the schedule.
Let's make it happen because I want to get some competition going with you. I think that'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah. Scott Fish said this show was adequate. Yes, this was a show.
I appreciate that very much.
you can use this in your Testament. This is so good.
We will.
We absolutely will. Well, this was a lot of fun, guys. Hey, everyone out there, go follow Matt Ward on Twitter at PsychWardFF. You can see it under his face there. This was a lot of fun, Matt. I want to thank you just one more time. Great team, great draft.
Yes. Pleasure's all mine, man. Yeah, I really appreciate it.
Well, I think we're going to get out of here. We are here live streaming every weekday at 3:00 p.m. Eastern time. Come on in, hit that like button, follow us. We are Front Yard Fantasy. Check out our TikTok, Front Yard FYF.
Yeah, Josh been dropping those draft profiles.
Yeah, the draft profiles are a lot of fun. They're getting a lot of views, a lot of likes. I'm having a lot of fun putting those together. So follow us on TikTok, and I hope everyone has a great day.
Yeah, we hope you have a great day.
Trading makes fantasy fun, right?
There it is. We'll see you tomorrow.
Hey, see ya.